February 20th, GGG launched the Legacy of Phrecia event for Path of Exile with impactful changes such as the idol system, but more importantly, 19 new Ascendancies. It sparked the creation of tons of new builds and inspired me a lot, and so today I am presenting you 6 custom unique items based on Phrecia Ascendancies. While designing these unique items, I decided to follow 5 rules. 1. Only one unique item per ascendancy. 2. Each unique item must be relevant to its linked ascendancy. 3. Each unique item must be interesting in and on themselves and not simply fit existing playstyles. 4. Each unique item must stay relevant outside of Phrecia. 5. The hardest one by far. Each unique item must not harm the game due to its design. To simplify, if it can reach an acceptable state by just changing the numbers, it's good. Otherwise, it's bad. That's it for the rules. Let's get into it. For Daughter of Oshabi, we have Dawning Dew Chagrin Gloves. 110 to 190% increased evasion rating, plus 2 to maximum number of Sacred Wisps, plus 2 to number of Sacred Wisps summoned. Your Sacred Wisps deal 40 to 30% reduced damage. You and your allies can inflict and be inflicted by 4 fewer Grasping Vines. Your Sacred Wisps have 15 to 25% chance to inflict Grasping Vine on hit, 3% increased damage with hits and ailments per Grasping Vines you and your allies have inflicted recently. Okay, so that's it for the unique. Let's get into the explanation. If you just want to go to the next unique, I've put the time codes down below. So the increased evasion rating is just a basic modifier that is mostly there for defense. It also interacts with forest tracking, but it clearly isn't the main focus. Right? It is an amount of evasion that is not ridiculous. With forest tracking, it will give you 2%, but it is not there to interact specifically with this node. From the next modifier onwards, we enter a little bit more into the identity of the unique item. Plus 2 to maximum number of Sacred Wisps, and plus 2 to number of Sacred Wisps summoned. But your Sacred Wisps deal 40 to 30% reduced damage. So this is the first part of the identity of this unique. So this unique revolves a lot about wisps. As you can see on Daughter of Oshabi, you have Eliminating Wisps, which is a node that grants you more maximum number of Sacred Wisps. I've told PoE Ninja builds a bit, and it seems that most often than not, obviously there are exceptions, but most often than not, it's always just a stepping stone towards spell slinging. Like the main node you want to reach is spell slinging, and you take the wisps because you have to take them along the way. And the idea with this unique is that the wisps will be worth taking by themselves, even though they have reduced damage, thanks to the remainder of the unique. So then, you and your allies can inflict and be inflicted by 4 fewer Grasping Vines. So it is both a buff and a nerf in a sense, because the fact that you can be inflicted by fewer Grasping Vines, unless you are using it to boost yourself like you would do with Nature's Patience, then Grasping Vines on you would just be a problem, and this sort of limits this problem. But the other detriment is that you can inflict fewer Grasping Vines on enemies. So all in all, it sounds more like a downside than an upside. But it is explained by the fact that your Sacred Wisps now have a chance to inflict Grasping Vine on hit. So when your wisps use the triggering skill, which is not something that happens every time, right? But when they do, the hit has a chance to inflict Grasping Vine, which is in and on itself a defensive option, because if you inflict Grasping Vines on your enemies, they have reduced action speed. But it is also offensive when you consider the roots of the grove. So with this unique, you are way more likely to achieve this amount of Grasping Vine needed to inflict poison quicker. But even without this ascendancy, it's still a gameplay that you can adopt thanks to, I don't remember the name of the unique. Hello, Llama from editing there. The unique was Inextricable Fate. Okay, so that's it for Daughter of Oshabi. I did make a unique item in one of my past leagues, and even though it could be used, it doesn't really fit the theme of the Ascendancy. Based on Surfcaster, here is Marbot's Line, Fishing Rod. 5% chance to catch twice as many fish, 40 to 60% increased cast speed. Increases and reductions to cast speed also apply to attack speed at 25% of their value. Satisfies bow or wand or one-handed mace weapon requirements for skills. So I know it concerns only one part of the Ascendancy tree, but I wanted to take this cool concept of picking this usually completely useless weapon, if you can even call it a weapon, and put it to good use. And so I've added, this unique adds a sort of twist that basically concerns the whole Ascendancy, because of the new options it gives with fishing rods. 5% chance to catch twice as many fish. It might be too strong for fishermen out there who do have a good spot already, but I know that the fishermen out there will be able to correct me on this. Don't hesitate to write, okay? 40 to 60% increased cast speed, so it is cast speed is the only normal modifier you can have in a fishing rod, in the sense that it is a modifier that you can actually put to use outside of fishing. It is pretty common to have it on fishing rod because they also need the cast speed to throw the line, right? But then increases and reductions to cast speed also apply to attack speed and 25% of the value. It shouldn't be too broken as it is, might be even underpowered, but hard to tell. When you have a fishing rod, you usually don't care about attack speed, right? But with the last line, which I already told you, with this fishing rod, you can use either bow skills, wand skills, or one-handed mace skills. Okay, it's only one. If you want to change it, you will have to divine this item. And so then attack speed becomes relevant, right? Something to note is that this unique satisfies the requirements for using a skill gem. It doesn't count as either of these weapons, it's just a fishing rod. So any modifier on the tree that says damage to bow doesn't affect this. So based on Behemoth, we have Spawn of the Earth, which is an Eternal Burgonet. 30 to 50% increased armor, spell skills deal no damage, your spells are disabled, doubles the defenses of your body armor, and abnegates lightning. Okay, so let me explain. The increased armor, same stuff as for the Daughter of Oshabi, it's a basic modifier. Obviously it helps the Behemoth because it has a scaling with armor with steel wield, the same as the Daughter of Oshabi has with evasion rating. And so this would grant, once again, just enough armor by itself to add 2% or so with steel wield. Then we have spell skills deal no damage and your spells are disabled, which is obviously referencing Rampager, the first node that you have to take for this Ascendancy. Spell skills deal no damage and your spell are disabled are it is a huge downside. I don't think there is a bigger downside in the game, because there are some gems that are considered spell that simply shouldn't. Like for example, any stand skill or Berserk. The fact that you are fueled by your rage and hit harder is a spell. It's weird. But anyway, the huge props of having such a downside is that you can bring an equivalent upside to try and match it. So the first upside is doubles the defenses of your body armor. Since you are very likely to invest into your body armor a lot, this will reward you for having a very well built, very tough body armor in terms of defenses. But it's like, let's say your body armor goes up to 4,000 armor, then this says plus 4,000 armor, which is great, but it is not nearly enough as to match the spell skills deal no damage and are disabled, right? So then I added the last line, which is abnegates lightning. And abnegates lightning, what it means is that lightning just no longer exists for you. What's lightning? Lightning damage doesn't exist. You can't deal any, you can't take any. Lightning elements, they don't exist for you. You can't inflict, nor be inflicted by shock, shocked grounds, sapped grounds.
You can still use skill gems and support gems that have the lightning tag, and you can still roll modifier related to lightnings on your items, but chances are it won't be really useful for you. So this is what I did to try and match the disabled spell line. I take a whole part of the game, which is lightning, and it just goes away. You pay a small price in that you cannot use it, but this unique most likely than not will be used by builds that do not rely on lightning in the first place, so then it's only upsides. So it might be it might be too strong, but it's hard to tell, really. Let me know what you think about this. Alright. Based on Scavenger, here is Fortuitous Collection. Fortuitous Collection, which is a heavy belt. Grants level 1 discrete storage, +1 to maximum number of stored equipment, and +4 to number of item slots in your discrete storage per empty flask slot. Reserves 100% of your mana to gain the effects of each stored equipment as an aura, +12 to 20 to all attributes, and +13% to cold and chaos resistance. Discrete storage is a skill which says opens a small stash space that can store items with limitations toward equipments, has 4 item slots, it has a maximum of 1 stored equipment, and it has a maximum of 1 stored equipment of the same type, and the stored equipments must be unique. So the whole idea behind this is obviously, well, you scavenge. You have a space where you can put things that you find valuable, and you gain their effects as an aura. So you have access to a storage. At first it is quite limited, you have 4 slots. You have a maximum of 1 stored equipment, so either a helmet, glove, boots, or 1 ring, or 1 amulet, or 1 belt. And for each flask slot that you leave empty, which is kind of a big downside, like it interacts well with the traitor, Keystone, obviously, but it is, I think, the only benefit. And so at the cost of a flask slot, you are allowed to store 1 additional equipment in it, which will be added to the aura without increasing its cost because it's already 100% of your mana, and you will be granted 4 additional item slots in your storage. So let's say you have 1 flask slot empty, you can put 2 equipments which should not share the same base and which span 8 item slots. So it could be a shield and a belt, a bow, or a 2-handed weapon. It could be boots and an amulet, and the remaining of the space you can put any other item. And for the remainder of this unique, it gives a little amount to all attributes, which I think makes sense for the Scion part of the tree, because you're at the middle of everything, but it also makes sense for a Scavenger because you have to hone all of the 3 aspects in a way in order to survive life. And the +13 to cold and chaos resistances, being a Scavenger, you are most likely more toward the living in the street rather than having a lavish villa, right? So you are hardened to cold nights, and you have probably had to fight a rat or 2 before, so cold and chaos resistances. Something to mention is that I did not put this limitation, maybe I should, but the way it works right now, you can put things in your discrete storage that maybe you are not able to equip, but it will work. Before moving on, I wanted to quickly show you this unique which I made for Horizon Custom League, which also kind of suits this Scavenger idea, but which is clearly not as polished. Based on Polytheist, we have Taken for Granted, Mosaic Kite Shield. +5 to 8% chance to block attack damage, +5 to 8% chance to block spell damage. Your Pantheon is fully activated while you don't have Divinity. Deactivate any Pantheon option that has helped you recently. You gain Divinity for 12 seconds when your Pantheon is fully deactivated. 4% increased damage taken per deactivated Pantheon options. Polytheist is a very interesting ascendancy. Its whole identity revolves around the Pantheon, and its nodes are like Pantheon options on steroids. It makes for good quality of life options, but it doesn't exactly offer straight guidelines like other ascendancies would. So I figured I would make this unique revolve around the Pantheon as well. So, time to explain this unique. The chance to block attack damage and spell damage is just there to add some extra value. Then, your Pantheon is fully activated while you don't have Divinity. So to explain this, first we need to see what Divinity is. Divinity is a strong buff that is only present on the Ephemeral Garb unique item. And I always thought it was a shame to have such a cool buff locked on a unique alone. And so while you don't have divinity, your Pantheon is fully activated. A fully activated Pantheon means that all options are active, the upgrades included, although you have to unlock them yourself. This unique won't unlock the options upgrades for you. A Pantheon option has helped you recently if during the last 4 seconds, any of its effects, upgrades included, has effectively affected you. So a couple examples. The 1% increased movement speed for each nearby enemy up to 8% granted by the Lunaris option is satisfied as soon as you move. So you move, it deactivates. The 20% chance to take 50% less area damage from hits from the Solaris option is satisfied as soon as it has effectively lessened the area damage of a hit. So when you take area damage, this option is taken into consideration because it has to compute whether it triggers or not. If it triggers, the option has helped you and it's deactivated, and if it doesn't, this option has not helped you yet. And the 100% chance to avoid being frozen granted by a Brine King upgrade is satisfied as soon as you have avoided being frozen thanks to this. For example, if you are immune to being frozen in the first place, and this modifier is not taken into account when considering whether you are frozen or not, then the condition is not satisfied. So now that we have covered this, let's check the rest of the unique. You gain divinity for 12 seconds when your Pantheon is fully deactivated. It is a bit different from the implementation and the ephemeral garb because I started toying with divinity charges like these other unique does, but it was tedious, and I noticed that I could simplify it, and so fully deactivating your Pantheon one way or another grants you this divinity buff for 12 seconds. And so it is a big power spike, and as is, I think the unique would be way too strong. Tell me if you think otherwise, but this explains the last modifier, which is 4% increased damage taken per deactivated Pantheon options. What it means is that you cannot just have this shield just for having the QL of a fully activated Pantheon with options that sometimes disappear, and with the occasional proc of divinity. If you keep having deactivated options and never reaching divinity, you will pay the price for it. In total, it does 48% of increased damage taken. Initially, I wrote you are marked for death during divinity, which roughly equals the same, but I didn't like that it will only trigger during divinity. So when you reach this amount of damage taken, so here, in addition of the power that divinity grants, you have an incentive of reaching it because it would arguably mitigate enough these downside thanks to the defense upsides that divinity provides. On to Gambler now. Okay, so for Gambler we have Legbreaker, Legion Hammer, 180 to 240% increased physical damage, chance to gain frenzy charges is lucky, 2% increased effect of frenzy charges on you per lucky feat, +1 to maximum frenzy charges per 10 lucky feet, gain 3 to 5 rage when your lucky streak decreases, physical damage is unlucky while you have rage, lucky streak. Okay, Gambler is also a very interesting ascendancy to design a unique item around. For this implementation, I decided to all in on the luck factor with this new lucky streak mechanic. Here's a fully detailed description of the lucky streak, which is quite long, but to simplify greatly, it's like Rampage, except it increases when you're lucky and decreases when you're unlucky, and has a limit of 50. It counts you as lucky when you are lucky, but also when an enemy is unlucky, and it works inversely for counting you as unlucky. So then, let's break it down. The increased physical damage is to make this weapon relevant as an option. The chance to gain frenzy charges is lucky, is a bit unconventional because this unique by itself does not grant you a way to generate frenzy charges. You will have to use other options, but these options are most often than not conditional, tied to a chance. Will be lucky, so that's great, and it powers this unique. 2% increased effect of frenzy charges on you per lucky feat. So a frenzy charge gives you this, and so basically this effect is 2% stronger. Since you can have a limit of 50 lucky feats, let's say for the sake of the argument that you are at 50 lucky feats, it means 100% increased effect. So as if you have double the amount of frenzy charges. +1 to maximum frenzy charges per 10 lucky feat. So at max you would have +5 to maximum on frenzy charges. But this alone would be a bad implementation. So you gain 3 to 5 rage when your lucky streak decreases. I could very well have written gain up to your maximum amount of rage, because the idea is that when your lucky streak decreases,
It means you have been unlucky, you are unhappy, and you rage a bit. But although it sounds like a bonus, it doesn't, because physical damage is unlucky while you have rage. So this unique item also gives you a source of unlucky in order to kind of balance it. So it kind of makes it that when you win, you keep winning, and when you lose, you keep losing. Rather than just having +1, -1, +1, -1. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Tell me which unique you liked or disliked. Don't hesitate to write your own ideas or implementation about these uniques, or even your own custom unique items, whether it is for Phrecia or not. Don't hesitate also to write whether you think I've broken my own rules or not. I read every comment you guys write. The video is over, the remainder is just some ramble and life updates. Thank you ChaosAndCoffee for helping me for this video. See you next time. Take care. Okay, quick ramble. I have my notes there. Okay, so about the delay between the videos. Basically I was hooked by the Legacy of Phrecia events, and then there was the PoE2 update, which also gives me new ideas for future contents. And also I had this sort of block, completely irrational block, because during my free time, I create a lot of custom content, but like it's just lines of text basically. And then I think about it plagues my thoughts. I think I'm completely cooked, but so I think about and I think about presenting and I feel good when I do. But when comes the time to actually do like making what I'm making right now, just the simple fact of speaking there and then editing the video, I'm always blocked about editing, because I'm always, whenever I'm not editing, I feel confident about editing. When it's imminent, I feel completely lost about editing, and when I start editing, I feel good about editing. It's the only problem I have with editing is that I take way too long. I don't know how people go faster. It takes me so much time to gather everything I want to gather, make the pictures I want to make, grab the things I want to grab, pick the music that would suit, things like that. Also, I have to cut a lot because I'm not a native English speaker, as you can hear, and the rhythm of my speech is atrocious. It stops every time. I linger of some words like to and for, because while I'm saying this, I'm organizing my thoughts. So it happens less when I have a script. Here, when I was explaining my uniques, I didn't have a script because I didn't want to write what I knew about I wanted to still have this sort of ad-lib opportunity, if you want to call that, like this. But so I found a very silly technique, which is about putting these glasses on, because when the idea is that I put these glasses on and it's not me. It's completely stupid. It makes no sense, but I don't know. It's just, it makes me feel, I don't know if confident is the word, but it makes me actually do the thing. So yeah, I'll take that. About the big vid and the league I was talking about in the last update, which is literally the last video because I didn't make a video in a month. The big vid about the Eldritch Altars is still in the scope. Now that I've unblocked myself from editing, I will get back to it after this video eventually. And I have lots of other longer format concepts in the bag. And about the current custom league I'm working on, it's stuck.
It's not that I don't have the time to put in the efforts, but if I do it, I will not be able to do anything else alongside it. So what I'm thinking is that I will let it aside. I might work on another league instead, but no release date. I can't give any date. And finally, I want to give an immense thanks to ChaosAndCoffee once again, who helped me for this video, but also to Mayple and Crooky, who are two good persons that are always reliable. When I have a question about the lore, I can ask Crooky. When I have a question about design, I know I can ask Mayple. It's very comforting to know that. And finally, Sylver is back. Sylver is back. The dude has been away for months, and he comes back with banger video, and it's been live streaming. I mean, he was already live streaming, but recently I went to his live stream and he had fairly large audience. I think that's amazing for him because he deserves it. He puts in the work in a very niche domain, which is design. It's not the main content that gravitates around Path of Exile, but it's nice to see his efforts rewarded. So I'm very happy for him. And this is a true end of the video. Thanks for watching again. Thanks for listening to me rant. And I'll see you in the next one. See you, fellas.